Oh, this is normal. Come on now. Like, yo, that's normal. Listen, yo, warfare is a normal thing. I remember like my kids could sleep at like a party, right? Like especially when I was like younger, I was like 18, 19 years old. You know what I mean? I had like little ones and like, like everybody be downstairs kicking it and the bass booming and everybody's all talking loud or whatever. And the kids would pass out in like 4 or 5 minutes. It's crazy. Kids will sleep through anything.
That was me, and I still like people are still weirded out how well I can sleep. And I almost do feel like though there isn't anything wrong, like I said, with people who can actually do a 4-hour schedule. And the biggest factor is that you're making sure, in my personal opinion, that you are disconnecting from tech. I think we are heavily disconnected from nature, and it sounds ridiculous, but there's a lot of science in literally just putting your hand on a tree.
Well, yeah, listen, there's a lot of science all day today catching catfish. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
This is what you're supposed to be attached to nature. Like I'm an Appalachian, right? Because your nature like builds culture, and that's what most like Americans are actually missing. Like most people in Western civilizations missing is that attachment to nature as a whole.
Yeah, and you'll hear some people say like when they've had issues, like they'll have the best night's sleep ever when they dip into the woods. So,
by the way, Hank, I like your hat, dog.
I do too.
Yo, I got one.
Dude, Hank is the best dressed man on the internet, hands down.
Yo, I like that hat. Hat is killing it. I don't know about some of the ones in the background. That yellow one, dog. Like I don't know, man. Listen, unless you're gonna
that's his Dick Tracy for me.
I know that's Curious George right there. It's a man in the yellow hat and shit.
That's Luffy's hat.
I like it. I like Hank's look. Hank is a good looking man.
Yeah, the hard hat, you got to put it backwards. So you got to like pull the things out and then put it backwards and then put some stickers on it and some grease. It'll look way better.
I barely use it.
Yeah, me either.
Well, it's right. It's semantics, though, too, to some extent. I think Hank knows that. It's like you can present yourself well, but it's like what your interior is going to show, what you're going to get done. I think we're all at that point too right now, especially in this panel verse. Sort of like I'm sick of the looping myself. I've been saying that for a while. I'm ready to make some real action happen, and there's a lot of great minds. It doesn't mean we all have to jump into some sort of cult. So I just want to make that clear again.
I'm fine with a cult. I mean, at the end of the day, like, what is politics? Like, what was the king? It was an individual who, like, you gave your sovereignty to, so he would represent you, and you would be able to, like, just live your life day to day and have the sovereignty of your household. Go ahead, Hank. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So the looping cults, I pretty much sidestep them, but then I'm just kind of alone. So that's my problem. I'm kind of alone, even though I should have kind of most mainstream set of views, and well, I take them too far because I don't sign on to any ridiculous cult loops. So I'm kind of alone. I'm pro technology, pro science. I use but I also use my REM sleep to interface with Greek goddesses, and I also use topomancy. And unfortunately, what they have they sound like old fuddy-duddy grandmas, but they're dumb advice. So I kind of can't take them seriously.
How do you feel technology integrates with nature, or how do you? What I guess a better question for you would be, how would you describe the difference between organic tech and tech?
It's very arbitrary. It's like a word ban list. Some people hate the word retarded. Some people hate the word mechanism. I mean, it's completely arbitrary. So you just pick and choose your favorite.
So then, like for you, especially with technology, how do you see like this narrative of rare earth minerals just a construct to make us believe that it's not a possible thing? Like, is there a narrative behind that? Like, what do you see? Foresee that like excessive? Because hear me out. Like, where does it end for you? Where does technology?
Someone wants to make some money, so they'll try to cause a shortage, so they can sell their wares at a higher price. I mean, it's like we can recycle the batteries we have, but we had to pay to recycle them. So someone's taking the resources off the back end instead. We just just collecting them and recycling them. So
I mean, like you do understand how like thermodynamics works, right?
yes,
You know, like the first law of thermodynamics: for every energy transferred, there's some energy lost.
yeah, except in that, yeah, the free energy is lost as heat. Yes.
Well, I mean, it's not just heat, right? It's energy transfer, right? So every time you recycle, there's some that's lost.
Well, it turns into heat because it's no longer free energy that's usable. But yes.
Yeah. Again, it's gonna be lost, right? So like you're gonna have to continue to create more. Like this Earth isn't infinite. There's no like infinite resources. There's no such thing.
The sun's pretty damn close to infinite resources relative to us.
I mean, the sun is, I mean, still you have to like build the panels and build the technology to be able to harness it, plus the battery tech to be able to store it, because the sun only shines in the daytime.
Yeah, but we also have geothermal energy that shines all night long if we dig deep enough. So,
yeah. But like, do you know how far you'd have to dig if you're on like the east coast of the U.S.?
I don't know, but I can look it up.
Well, there is, just to back up, Hank, and like a little bit more on the infinite energy aspect. There are alternative aspects, but my frustration has been like where it's been turned into a money game when it doesn't need to be. So again, this comes down to just literally taking copper coils and putting it into a sacred geometry or like a 369 again ratio pattern, and being able to charge batteries. Have you heard of John Hutchinson and the crystal batteries? I mean, he's got some other tech that's really fascinating. And I can send you, by the way, I'll send you some stuff, because if you aren't already part of Apex, you would love it. Apex is that alt propulsion. I can't remember. It's a conference, energy conference. And so they actually are messing even with levitation right now. But, and they've messed with the hydrogen fuel cell, which is one of my favorite topics because I was really into it, but understanding again, the volatileness of it is important. There are, and then ionosphere type energy development as well. You know what I'm talking about? When you're actually able to take a device up 700 feet in the air, you can actually run 700 watts. They've shown that in real time. Go ahead.
I have a question, right? What is the end game?
Ooh.
I mean, like, listen,
we were talking about that before you came in, because I agree. It's like, what's the point? What's the point of all this?
Are we going to continue to like stand here and like divorce ourselves from nature, not have families or communities, and continue to try to be massive individuals, or like, because I feel like that's not healthy for us as humans.
I agree. And hear me out too with what I'm talking about with using alternative tech is more to be organic tech is kind of how I see it. And I know organic starts to get into the liberal bleeding hearts. But I think if you see it on a more harmonious level, which most people understand, even conservatives, hence the name, especially, you look at a lot of them in their movements with hunting and understanding that balance with the system.
I'm an angler.
Quote unquote, when I say system, the laws of nature.
We're supposed to find a balance with how we live.
I agree. And you look at the building materials we live in, and if you look at the energetic, again, value of the disconnection from you to the earth and the properties of grounding, the benefits and the science behind grounding, I mean, that's huge compared to like to show some evidence to how we're living right now is so disconnected.
I'm a communitarian.
You know about like Brim style Earthship, and this kind of gets into the clay adobe concept, but there's a whole energetic value again to just touching your own wall in your own house when you have that kind of design.
So I have an end game that's feasible. My end game's pretty much being monetarily neutral, not having any debt, and have a sustainable living just to start with. Then I can think about expanding after that. But if I can get to neutralizing my trade deficit to start with, then I can plan on expansion after that.
I mean, what about like having a community, right? What about like
that's what I'm saying.
Well, I need to like-minded. I mean, I can't just collect Sarah and say, "Well, you're mine now." That's kind of illegal.
Listen, do you understand who I am? I'm Tom Pease, all right? Like, I look at a chick and they get pregnant, all right? Like, legitimately, like, that's how.
Calm down. It's not that easy, but that's cute.
I got 5 babies' moms, right? Legit.
Oh, We got it. Okay.
Like again,
All right,
you're
I'm
like
laughing
maybe
with you,
6 or
but
7 depending on
regardless,
which chick you talk to.
there is
right?
okay. So let's take that. Like, I don't know how you personally feel, but there is a whole thing like on monogamy versus polyamory. And
Polyamory, yeah.
I personally, I'm a very open-minded person, but I cannot necessarily do that. I'm actually a very strong, independent woman, so I'd rather just go off and live on the woods on my own. But yes, like monogamy is a little bit more of my placement. That's who I am. I have tried. I'm not joking you. I put myself out there to just embrace it or to try to understand it as well, because I have so many people in my life and friends who do. So I kind of understand how you all feel about it, because moving forward with a quote unquote community, that's sort of a moral standard that needs to be either respected or understood, I think. Because in nature, animals are monogamous and polyamorous.
Well, they're not really like monogamous or polyamorous. They're just breeding. But
Not
like,
necessarily. Like, look at mates, and this happens in the bird.
It's like
Hold on, really quick. This does happen in the bird species more often, but there are quite a few species that do hold solely. Like they there's actual evidence that they weep and have sorrow over when their mate like deceases. There's a lot of connection there, so you can't just say it's just for breeding.
I mean, there's like
elephants
3,
grieving over their young as well, or grieving over the dead as well.
Oh yeah. I mean, but elephants, are like longer living animals, right? The shorter the lifespan, the less chance of that happening. Other than like birds, and mainly in like penguins and a couple of like non-migratory species. But anyway, like back to the point at hand. I really don't care what happens in like the animal kingdom as far as things are concerned. I concern myself with like what happens in the primate kingdom, and in particular, what's wrong. Well, what we need as human beings, right? We need communities, we need families, we need like land, we need space, we need air, we need water, we need all these things. And the idea of having infinite energy fucks that up. Right. Like, for instance, right now, like out in the Midwest and the West of the United States, we're draining off all the groundwater to the point where the land is sinking and you're no longer having the aquifers even available to be able to replenish it. Right. And that's
then there's like a whole thing of understanding how to manipulate the land, which is what we used to do in water retention and terraforming. And we've totally lost touch with that. And there are people who are doing that in the deserts and actually rebuilding entire forests in a 10-year span.
But we have the technology, we know how to do. We just don't feel like doing it. You have to.
I know we're lazy as fuck right now, honestly, because we are so absorbed with the technology, and that's my complaint as well. Like, I don't want to live that way. I agree with you, but I don't think it's as like cut and dry sometimes as, and honestly, sometimes that's, I think, made it worse for people agreeing to move forward with it because they don't actually see the full benefit. We actually, if we are reconnecting with nature, we are becoming so powerful within ourselves.
We just pretended we're playing dumb because we don't feel like fixing the problems.
Well, yeah, but you guys want your tech too, right? And that's kind of like half the fucking problem. So like,
I don't need it. I'm respectful of those.
Well, like, we can destroy the track. We can live in the woods. You're gonna have even more problems.
You'll have
that's why the libertarians aren't going to live in the woods to get away from the state, because they want the problems to live in the jungle.
Well, like, now the people who are like terraforming the desert, they're not growing corn there is the issue, right? They're not trying to feed like a massive population with that area.
But why? But that's maybe not the point. Have you heard of companion planting?
I have. So you can like plant two things in like one area.
And it actually regenerates the soil within itself. So you're actually allowing one plant to grow on top of another, and then the other one actually regenerates the soil in the process. So you're talking no till. You're talking the ability to be able to do biochar, which can actually regrow mass amounts of forestry and develop the land if you're using that terraforming concept along with it. This is what I'm getting. Like, we were so disconnected. Somehow we were pulled away, and there was this over sterilization, and there was a huge push for quantity over quality. And this whole like starvation of the world thing is sad. And the idea that it's so easy to germinate right from your own produce, and we are so disconnected from that.
Well, yeah, that's a specialization thing, right? So, like, that's the idea that, like, we're all supposed to be specialized in some other thing other than, like, being fucking...
It's not that hard. That's what I'm telling you.
Like, listen, do you understand how hard it is to get human beings to, like, for instance, not eat goy slop? Like just some basic ass shit, like stop eating fucking Twinkies or drinking soda,
Well,
you fat fuck,
yes.
you're gonna die. And they'll do it anyway. They'll keep doing
My
it until they
past
die.
partner will let you know. My past partner will actually, I have a success story, but it did take him having to go through some major health issues to get him there.
That's what I'm
But
saying.
I have an amazing story where he actually had C. diff, which is one of the most deadly bacteria in his system. Through that process and through healing his gut, was able to rectify that issue without, because they threw every fucking antibiotic. They told him he was going to have to get hospitalized. He had it for 2 years. I should have gotten it in the process because that's how contagious it is. All that was rectified by me, again, making sure that I was putting in the good bacteria on a consistent basis. It took me a month when I really focused on it. I had to kind of throw several things, and then we just leveled it out after that. But they were like shocked. It took a month for me to do it. They came back in and said he was clear. So we're so disconnected with that, right? Like we don't even understand the power of once you establish that, your body can literally regenerate. They've shown the regeneration of cells. If you get stage 3 sleep, you actually regenerate gray matter in your brain.
Yeah.
Yes, but you're thinking back to a time that never existed. Like we could go back to when we were settling, but then people were dying of dysentery all the time.
I'm fine with that.
You're forgetting.
Because you want to know what I think? Hear me out. I have a theory. I have a theory on this, and this connects to emotional warfare. So yes, I got into a whole thing about like the pH of the gut, but what about the pH of the brain, the balance of the brain? Because just like toxic positivity and toxic negativity can have ramifications. So at those times, think about the despair. Think about like if you weren't prepared for that mentally, you weren't told how to prepare for that mentally, it would wear on you so heavily. And in the moment somebody dies or certain things are falling apart or you lose source or your oxen die in the river or somebody dies in dysentery, the whole rest of the trip, the rest of the tribe is going to be having issues. So I talk about this also when we came in and infiltrated on certain tribes coming into the Americas. And I, I'm open to the narrative being skewed. Regardless, think about the tribes once we wiped out their entire resource especially off the coastlines, all of that sea life, all of those other aspects they were using, and then forcing them like to probably breed with them, live with them, certain slave aspects, it would have worn on them emotionally. So when we talk about disease taking over the natives, was it not potentially emotional warfare?
Well,
yes. I trained myself to be tougher with video games because they prepare me to lose, prepare me to fail. Unlike school, which need me to be perfect all the time, or you're worthless. So,
well, school for sure is set up for failure, in my opinion. But yeah,
school makes you complacent. That's who's really successful in schools. People who are like compliant, right? If you're really compliant, you're gonna do very well. By the way, ESP Reviation, yo, what up, man? It's one of my motherfucking followers too, right?
Nice.
He's in the chat. Yeah, but like, yo, man, listen, yeah, it makes you whoever's compliant is who's successful in school. Right, that's what that is. They just want you to be like super compliant. The whole point of school is to indoctrinate you into like the Anglo-Saxon, liberal mentality of life. And
savage, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That's what that shit is. The whole point of school, what it was set up to do is when the Italians and the Irish were here and they weren't like folding into like the entire thing or weren't folding into like the society as a whole. They were literally they started the school system to make sure that they were fucking becoming like regular Anglo-Saxon people, right? That's what the whole fucking point of school is.
Yeah, I'm only marginally compliant, which is why I'm not good for any cult either.
Yeah, well, that's where the quote unquote cult or what I'm even talking about is not supposed to be like that. This is why I was even saying, like, how do I deal personally? I'm supposed to be quite a wide open door. This is also why we're talking about multiple different ones. So we're not all like forced into something. But I've also heavily talked about as sort of like an initiation process, a solo journey. If you are not comfortable being by yourself in some of the scariest scenarios, like you're setting everybody up for failure. You have to be ready to face all of that on, in my personal opinion, and that just comes with living without fear. Shout
Yo,
out to Talcott. I've said that twice tonight. I have not intentionally said that, but at this point,
when I got sold by that judge when I was a kid and shit, they put me into that placement. That was one of the things that they did. They put you on a solo. You had to go spend 3 days in the woods by yourself, right? And that was literally part of the fucking program.
I feel that.
Yeah. I mean, like that.
What's
these
up,
are things
man?
that used to be normal. Like we used to have, like the reason why, like we had men and women is because, like, men had a standard that they had to live to in order to be part of like the community and be functioning members of that community. And then the women had the same thing. And that's why relationships don't work today. Like literally, like you want to like have things be normal. Get rid of washers, dryers, and refrigerators, and things will 100%, go back to the way they're supposed to be. That's what this
so
is.
if it fails, what can I take from you? If it doesn't happen to go
you can
back,
take my life. I'll give it to you.
Okay, you'll be my wash and dry once we
like literally like
whoa.
Shoot me in the head, bro.
No, that's not the way I want to do it. If you're gonna take away my wash and dryer, I'm gonna take away your life, and you'll become the new wash and dryer.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
But we could take the pump from the washer and dryer and create a whole separate energy system with it, Hank. So can we do that instead?
Right. Yeah, you'll be the pump.
Like you understand your wife.
The Adams motor. Have you heard of the Adams motor? Okay. Sorry.
Have you guys heard of the Watchers? The Watchers.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
I think they'd be watching.
They'd be watching.
What's next?
Yeah, they'd be watching.
Have superpowers too? How do we verify that?
How what?
I'm just saying this pie in the sky, if we throw away the technology, everything will become better. I want to see some evidence of that.
Yeah. Listen, it's about so it's about inner social dynamics, right? So like it's really simple. When you need somebody, right, you motherfucking like you actually need them and you hold on to them, right? It's a really simple thing. You appreciate those around you who you need, right? It's very simple. Like it's why like when you're on a farm, you have kids. When you move to a city, you stop having kids. Like urbanization destroys birth rates. It's a very basic thing. It's well understood by every demographer and every anthropologist, every sociologist. Everyone understands this. You need kids on a farm because they're farm equipment, right? They help you like run the farm.
Yeah.
Right. When they're in the city,
you need to explain why the pygmies need help from the United Nations instead of running the world because they don't have technology there. Why do they need bailouts not running the freaking planet?
Yeah. Listen, we're not going to do better economically. We're going to do better as humans.
So what's the best human? What's your standard?
I'm being a human.
What's your standard? I don't know what that means.
Like you're being a fucking human being.
I look like a human even though I'm supposed to be a lizard person. So
Are you a lizard person?
How do you measure a human?
Are you a lizard person?
Nah, I look like I test as human. Maybe it's just the technology so good, but who knows?
Are you a lizard person?
Who knows?
Yeah, listen again. Like so, as a human being, like you're supposed to, procreate, be in balance with nature. Have a monogamous relationship, have like interpersonal relationships, be attached to other generations, have ancestors, like give a fuck, have a community, all these type of things, right?
Yeah,
that's what you do as a human being. We don't do any of these things now.
Well, some people do.
Yeah, almost no one does in the Western world.
Well, you can't. I can't just have a relationship. Someone has to choose me, and I can't really do that for choosing that all the time. So, unless I impose my will, which is illegal, it's really not my choice.
Yeah, no, again, when you need each other, there's no more this mentality of, hey, look, if you have kids, right, you're going to need that woman because she's going to have to go garden in the outback, right? She's going to have to wash and like dry her clothes, all these type of things. She's going to have to like spend time actually doing shit, right? Like, I don't know if you could imagine being a housewife in the 1950s and 60s where like there isn't any TV and radio really like that unless you're in the upper middle class because these things were very expensive. You know what I'm saying? There wasn't any real entertainment. You were trapped in a house all day and you had these appliances, right? And you were literally just a living fucking hostage.
Yeah.
Your life was miserable, right? But before that,
women don't like to be slaves. It turns out they didn't actually like to be slaves.
No, it's not.
You know that.
It's not. No, it's not that. It's that like when you have shit to do where you're contributing to like a fucking actual like functioning household, it makes more sense, right? Like upper class women wanted feminism. That's why like rich women were the ones who fought for it.
Yes.
Right? Because
And
they
now,
had
now all the
servants.
women are kind of,
Because they had servants.
yeah,
Exactly,
and now
because
most women are
they got sick
because
with
they
like a
also don't
queen
like to be
status
slaves.
instead
they
of respecting a more tribal instead of having a midwife or what would they call them, their maidens, like there was a more respectful relationship in a tribal concept because everybody took care of each other's children. And though in some concepts there was a hierarchy to it, there just like again, you go back to it takes a village. Everybody's supporting each other in different ways. At some point, there was some sort of emotional game, or there was a disconnect on people's abilities to work through those emotions. You still see tribes, though, utilize this today. And this actually is through quote unquote culture, but through, performance and expressing yourself appropriately, literally just screaming. I guarantee all of us probably need to go outside and scream really loud, really bad.
Yeah,
It
imagine.
would probably do us all a bunch of good. So if you do get a chance here during this weekend, please, folks, go out into the woods, and you can announce yourself initially, but just let it out.
Yeah, imagine like when you have an abortion debate, the argument isn't whether or not a woman has a right to do something. It's whether or not like you want that person in your community. Right. Imagine it's not the fact that she doesn't have the right to kill her child. It's about the fact of she doesn't have the right to take away a member of your community. Right. Imagine if it's, listen, why would you do this? We'll support you. We love you. And we need this person here. This is what it's supposed to be. You're supposed to love each other. You understand that?
Yes.
What if she was raped in the community? I'm just curious, like, how, and how, like,
everyone's got to bring.
Hold on, really quick. Let me finish this, and I'm very open-minded. Okay, let's just say, like, I'm thinking about this in my own retrospect right now. Like, I'm talking about building these communities. How would I deal with something like that when you think you know somebody and this happens, right? So, like, how do you handle it? But and to me personally, if I was ever in that situation, I've discussed this already, I would have the child. That's my personal choice. Okay. Now, again, in a community sense, this woman is mentally just sick and out of control. I mean, you're trying everything, and I'm not saying getting rid of the child is still the answer, but how would you personally deal with it?
Well, you could let the woman decide what she wants to do with the child, and then after that, you have to get rid of the rapist. So that basically, you take a heavy stone and you just basically get like everybody gets a rock,
Okay.
and you just hit him with the rocks,
Dude,
until he dies, and then that's
for
all.
real. That's for real, but for real. I have an idea on this. Anyone who wants to join your community has to first dig a 20-foot hole for when they fuck up. And if they, that way they dig that hole in the beginning and they go, fuck, I really don't want to be in this hole. And then if they do something crazy like that.
Yeah, I feel like we need to land. So like, we're not going to dig holes for no reason.
Yeah, I agree. And another issue,
an eye for an eye, generational trauma too. Like,
and
we get those stones.
Why would the rapist choose the rape?
We don't want to keep the rapist, the rape baby around because they'll have a higher chance of being a rapist. So I don't know. It makes it.
But are we positive on that?
I guess we're being prompted to use the word grape instead of
grape.
Oh, grape. Sorry. Yeah, if I said that already.
Let's go with grape. Just to offset.
I'll tell you what. I have a friend of mine. They went and hiked the Appalachian Trail from Maine to Georgia. Right. They did it twice. And they were raped both times, and they ended up pregnant. And they had 2 daughters. Right. I think one's called Miracle. The other one's Harmony. I think her name. But they're amazing, and so is she. Right. Like they're amazing human beings, and she kept both of them, and like they're great. You know what I mean? Like I don't know why you gotta like worry about this stuff. Like again, she was one of the Appalachians who like were part of like a big family and a big community, and like everybody supported her and loved her and helped her with the kids. And these aren't actual real problems if you actually have support structures.
Yeah,
well, that's what I'm getting at, like with what's happened over time.
There's there's the lack of support structures. There's ghost support structures. There's scammers pretending to be support structures. That's the issue.
Yeah, again, like I'm saying, giving back to support structures. You get rid of like this technology that allows you to be individualistic, and you end up having communities where you have support structures back because you need them.
And you would also,
or you
again,
get bailed up by the UN like the pygmies. So
the UN is American money. You do understand, like they all their funding from us.
yes, I do understand that. Why are these poor African countries not ruling the world and getting instead of taking money from us?
Again, it's because we keep giving them like modern medication and modern like fucking sophisticated technology, and like literally like we are allowing more of them to exist than would normally exist. They're getting out of balance with nature. That's why it is they can't feed themselves.
Yeah, but if your hypothesis made sense, they wouldn't be barely starving to death. They'd be ruling the world.
That's not, again, we're not talking about ruling the world. You understand that, again, I said this is not a world running situation. This is a situation of allowing humans to be humans. This is us being happier, not becoming like super successful. Happiness, success, two different things, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. You might not just discard your technology and go live with them then.
I mean, again, because I'm not a pygmy, nor am I black.
That's what I'm saying. Like, again, when it comes to technology in general, like, where does it end? And where, like, okay, so if the universe is infinite and if it takes, and you're going to, like, just continually, like, or are you going to put yourself in a robotic body? That to me does not interest me at all. I don't resonate with that.
Yeah.
And maybe that is the future, but then I guess I'm supposed to perish in whatever this is then I don't even know if that makes sense, but I'm supposed to disperse in a different energy format because I'm not doing it.
And by the way, the highest, here's a crazy thing, my brother, right? The highest birth rate and the most successful population in the United States right now, as far as like community and health and like happiness, all these type of things, are the Amish. They don't receive 1 cent of government money. To be a fact, the government on a regular basis fucked with them.
There's like others too. So this goes in with Russia.
I'm pretty sure it's the Latin Americans, but not the Amish, to be honest.
Yeah.
So this goes into Russia too. So there's people who are living, into their hundreds and looking quite a bit younger. This is what I was talking about, the ringing cedars and their relationship with nature and their ability to not really have any materials. And I'm talking even in huge formats like shelters, like traditional shelters. There is some format of it, but it's also because of the way they terraform the land. And then it's this like they bury their dead in this perimeter. It's sort of a mound structure, really, that borders the property. And then because of that energetic value of it coming back in, and this woman, Anastasia, who's sort of the highlight, but this is a nonfiction book. This is about a man who went off because he heard about this and was in search of like more information and, tells his story of it. But more or less this woman, who's the highlight of the book, she ends up giving birth in front of a wolf and a bear because of that relationship with nature.
I thought when I heard you said that all the body, when they did something with the bodies, I thought that related to when I said that they could dig their holes before joining. It's like once you're done digging the hole, then you can join.
Yeah, I mean, you want to hear some crazy stuff? Like half of the people now who are like renting in like northern PA are renting from Amish people, right? And the reason is because they have fucking multi-generational family wealth. This is how you become like nominally successful, like long term, right? And still happy and still have family. You just get rid of all the technology, buddy. Like all the things that's making you an individual and thinking that you should do it on your own, right, is dumb. Right? You should be banding together with your family your whole life. And that way, like in the end of it, you have the ability to have a home and a car and like you have kids and everybody's cool and they know their place and everybody has a culture and is maintained long term. And you don't ever have to worry about your place in life.
I can't trust my family as far as I can throw them, bud.
Yeah, again, because they're all raised in an American, like Anglo-Saxon liberal way of life.
Well, that's where I'm at. I tried. there was talk of it happening, and then I got the farming is too hard.
Yo, literally, my dad
Um,
had a farm. He married a chick with the farm, bro, and they sold it because like they were worried about the kids wandering out. You know what I mean? And like getting eaten or some shit, right? And they're like, "Oh my god, what are we gonna do?" Because they had like two of my little half brothers, right? And I'm like, "Bro, listen, like they'll be fine. Like you do understand this is the best place for them to be raised." No, no, no. We need to go to the suburbs where there's concrete. You know what I mean? And fucking like factory made fucking houses and shit. That's where we need to live. Like, oh, and now we're in like a fucking 3-bedroom apartment somewhere. I'm going, Pops, if we all could have just banded together, we would have been way better off long term, and your grandkids would have been better taken care of. And he goes, no, no, no. Listen, it's everybody's job to take care of themselves. It's like, why is it I'm paying for your bills? Get the fuck out of here, yo. It's so dumb. Yo, like, listen, your mentality, Hank, just leaves everybody poor.
Well, I mean, and you do no, you're right. Like I help my neighbor, but I think as far as like right where that actually comes from, in my opinion, because I think it got skewed, is more like because this is what my parents taught me is you and you alone are responsible for your own happiness.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. Because like, don't get me wrong, like. And you also need to set your own boundaries. See, a lot of people they give too much, and they don't check themselves and make sure that they're set. And then there's this imbalance. But that has just come with this societal structure, right? There's this time construct as well, which is, I think, potentially been. I feel like it's definitely been construed the time aspect. So getting into this warping idea, it maybe it actually forces us on a more linear pattern, society.
It's what it is if you think about like society or even like the economy as a whole, what it is it's a fourth dimensional object, right? So like you had the first dimension, which is, just like the structure of it. And then the second dimension is like all the fucking people. And like a third dimension is like the different strata. And then the fourth dimension is time. Right. And like, the time thing, like, is fucked up because we don't understand it. Like, one gets passed to the next. It's like the baby boomers, like, just jacked everything. And they never really thought about time in a manner of money and capitalism, because how do you measure long term, like, time? Right. In the end of the day. Like, for instance, when in America, we ran out of oil in the 1970s. They ran through 300 million fucking years of oil development in like 60 years. That's insane.
Yeah. Here's where I am. I want to see more dog fooding and less performative contradictions. Otherwise, I just assume it's a trick to steal my wealth.
Dog fooding?
Yes, dog fooding. Reaping what you sow, because I assume it's a trick to take what I have already. Which has been done on me before with the education garbage. So
the education, I feel you.
Yes, the student loan garbage.
If you can foresee you having a balance more too, I think that's the biggest thing. Like, I just don't know. Like, I'm not being rude by insinuating this. I think you have a job that I think it's code related. Like you're obviously heavily talented in that element. My brother, by the way, is similar. And so I don't know how much time you spend in if you find enjoyment or if you can find peace being away from all of it at all. That's I sort of like I've had multiple like I have a friend who has this debate with me, and he feels like he himself has set himself up with Faraday cages and massive waterfalls in it. I have another picture of me standing in front of said waterfall. Actually, it doesn't exist anymore because there was a landslide and it took it out. But this is one of my favorite hikes. This is where I go. When I first moved out to Oregon, I was like this is examples of how it kind of looks like Rivendell. I'm a big LOTR nerd.
Yeah, but I definitely hear what you're saying on the alternative technology, and also the trying to make a different, off-grid internet type of system. But I think ultimately, I hear what, Pnoid is saying too about about just how technology brings the ruination of culture and, family and all of that type of stuff. I think ultimately you need a two-pronged approach. You know, you need a approach in terms of tackling the ideological issues and the local issues, but also, you know, you're gonna have to need some kind of greater, you know, revolution against a global technological system. You know, because like, look at the International Space Station. That's like a, you know, it's an international spy station. I mean, unless they knock that motherfucker out of the sky, you know, I don't really perceive, you know what I mean, right? Large scale changes, you know, being brought to fruition. So, like, they need to have some sort of thing where we plan on two different levels. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You got to be, you know, you got to work, you know, for man and work for God, and you got to work through nature, you know, to bring that about. So there's all of these types of aspects, you know, in a multi-layered approach that may be necessary to solve the problem. You know what I mean? Because they also need a, you know, a counter education. You know, we need a different education. So we need to go with that because, you know, our children can't just grow up and then,
Yeah.
you know, obviously they're going to be as shitty as we are, you know. So everybody says the children are the future, but you know what I mean? You know,
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, is there any truth to us actually like projecting this onto the generations? Is epigenetic mutation a reality? Is generational trauma a real thing? I mean, as far as I can see, especially with this emotional warfare concept, yes. And that's why I'm always like, are we constantly just going to go an eye for an eye? Like, I understand you guys want to stone the pedo, but like, I apologize who it was earlier, if it was Pnoid here.
Probably.
You know, getting into like the dynamics of that even happening in the first place, because you are checking and balancing emotions. But also, like, I know somebody who worked for something that was very hush-hush. He was actually an employee of mine, but on the side, because his job with me was his retirement job. But on the side, he was working with this organization that was trying to help the pedo scenario. And what's the most effed up thing, right, is they're to monitor the situation, because this is related to the judicial system. They had monitors on things, and they were put in situations of control, not sexual concepts. And they were actually shown that it was all based on control. And several, or I shouldn't say several, most of these people actually were rehabilitated out of this program. But there were some, he said, that they were not, and they were left for life. So this then gets into that whole, like, is this just the timing? Is there a time where that doesn't exist? Is this the frequency canopy? I know, sorry, because I know I took that in my ADH way. That's beautiful. Is that where you were, Hank?
Hey,
This is mine. This is mine.
so
Oh, okay, that's so beautiful, but that's awesome.
Thank you.
And Hank, again, like, the fact that you're hiking, like, that's all I'm getting at is, like, I think we just are so disconnected from nature.
Well, here's the thing: we don't have clear, coherent definitions. So basically, we're just pushing our will on each other. Pretty much all we're doing so far.
all right, so I don't know how relevant this point is, but I was just thinking to myself about how advancement in technology usually equals less effort by humans overall. So I was thinking, yeah, somehow that divide's just causing a lot of unnatural things, because of the scale, especially as the world or whatever. There's just percentages of energies that are being technically compromised due to technologies of, like, say, whatever, just farming, anything that you're using is for somewhat of an efficient manner, beyond what a human itself would kind of be capable of, which kind of explains why everything's like all linked, you know.
And here we go. We're probably going to irritate or trigger some people with the looping factor, but exactly. It does connect. And you just, so, I mean, at the end of the day, this is like, even my friend who's not necessarily religious, but he's like, the denial of Christ is over, but what is quote unquote Christ? And I know that's going to concern some people also on the God complex, but there is a respect to it because you can't not live within that respect. And shout out to the monotone supremacy.
I agree.
Yeah, but I just keep hearing that I'm the bad guy because I try to do things, simplify things, like make like a diagram so people don't have to remember where to move in the trailer, instead of making them memorize a list of instructions that I know they're not going to. I mean, you just don't. You don't get it. You don't get how hard it is to do stuff, so you just make it harder.
I don't know. I was a logistician
for
a long time.
We do make it harder.
But we make it harder, then the work's not even gonna get done.
Like I was a logistics guy for a long time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I ran like multinational operations and shit, right? Like I get what you're saying. But like ultimately in the end of the day, is any of these things actually good? That's the question.
Yes.
Why?
Because if we didn't do it, we wouldn't be able to get the stuff we want.
I mean, why do you need that stuff?
Why I need stuff? Well, I need stuff. Well, it's a very long explanation. We have to start talking about which stuff specifically.
I mean, again, like, listen, like if somebody's Funko Pops in arrive, it's like, is the world gonna be better or worse? If those Doritos shipments in arrive, or the things gonna be better or worse? Right? This is the fuck.
Probably worse because they want the stuff, they trade their resources to get the stuff, and you said, well, no more stuff on Monopoly, no soup for you because soup is evil. So probably worse.
Again, Doritos, like again, if the Doritos don't show up, like the world's.
Yeah, I like that one.
But we could ban soup, like we ban alcohol, and I don't think a lot of people can be happy.
I mean, I don't really care about whether or not like people get their goy slop. I don't.
That's fine. Can I enforce my ban list too, or is it just your ban list? Because I have a lot of stuff I actually want to ban too.
Like what?
I don't really like MacBooks, so I'm gonna ban them. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. 100%. Fuck Apple.
Okay. Lima beans, they're kind of annoying. I like peanuts. I'm gonna ban lima beans.
I'm fine with that. Yeah, listen, I haven't had lima beans since I was locked up.
But can we have like a jurisdiction? Can we have a ban on lima beans in your neighborhood?
Yeah, I'm fine.
But maybe in like 3 neighborhoods over, we can have lima beans.
Right? Like I'm a communitarian. Like I think that the United States should be broken into sections and shit, right? And like you should have your own nations, your own cultures, and have your own rules about like.
Look at the screen, man. There's peanuts in the chat right now.
Yo, what up, Peanuts? Nice to see you.
Yeah, so it's certainly already broken into sections, just the law's upside down.
Why?
Because we're not enforcing, the communities don't feel like enforcing any standards.
I mean, I feel like they're not allowed to enforce any standards.
Well, you're not allowed, you just have to overwhelm them. You just have to overwhelm the top and say, hey, well, we're gonna do this, and if you want to stop us, well, you're gonna have a fight.
Yeah, no, the Supreme Court says no. Every time somebody tries to do these things, they say no.
Well, the Supreme Court said no to the hemp too, and we just said no. We just negated a no.
Yeah. Listen, man. Like drugs. Everybody loves drugs.
I barely use them, but
yeah, I haven't gotten high since 2003. I feel where you are, right? But again, like. Motherfuckers, like they're willing to go out here and go on a limb and go, hey, look, we're going to, fucking allow weed, right? But every time a neighborhood says no, we're not going to let motherfuckers do this. Like for instance, they go, hey, look, we don't want, trans flags in our neighborhood. Like everybody loses their mind because like GDP number has to go up, so everybody has to be included all the time.
Well, but here's the thing: Nazis are unpopular. And they eat each other up in their own communities, so I guess it's not sustainable.
No, it's not that things aren't sustainable, right? Online movements are trash, are not real.
There's a lot of movements are vaporware, so.
Yeah. I'm saying, like, if you have like a real community, right, and like you say no to something, right, the Supreme Court comes in and tells you, we don't care what you think. We don't give a fuck about your rules or laws. You're gonna have to do what you want. That's why freedom's stupid, right? You shouldn't have the freedom of movement. We should ban the freedom of movement and allow for freedom of association. That's what it should be.
Yeah, you have a lot of prescriptions.
Yeah, I do.
But if I don't like them?
I mean, then you can fucking leave. Go to like
To
California.
where?
Go to
California.
Texas.
Okay.
Go to Texas. Texas will accept you, bro. Like Texas loves everybody. All right. They like Mexicans and like black folks who want to be able to like do free things and compete in the open market and be individualistic and leave their communities and their families behind. They love that shit, bro. That's Texas's number one thing. What do you think Texas is about? Go there.
You're in my state. Well, maybe
it's
I
my
should
state.
support you
I'm
my
older
state.
than you. I'm older than you. It's my state.
I don't care.
I was here first.
I'm care.
Indigenous. I'm
I don't
indigenous.
Care. Doesn't matter.
I'm indigenous. You're not.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Since we don't really have actual standards, it's just my bill versus your will. We need to define actual standards and actual measurements. Unfortunately, that's still technology.
Yeah, technology's dumb. Freedom's dumb.
Yeah, and if freedom's dumb, right? Privileges are dumb too. It's just my will against your will. It isn't sustainable.
Yeah, neither is yours. You're not having any children. That's why they let in 40 million Mexicans and fucking South Americans over the last 3 years.
I can have children, but you won't. If I did, a lot of people would be mad because I'll be imposing my will on the women who won't agree to it. So,
wait, are you saying like you want to rape chicks? Is that what's going on? Grape.
Here's the thing: if they're not selecting me and I want to have children anyways, then that's the only way to do so. So,
yeah, listen, women select me all the time.
Well, good for you.
And
having children's not an argument, really. Because we can find a guy who has the most children. Do you want to have him as president?
Yeah. How do you end up, having a long-term society without children?
Well, you don't. But having children's not an argument.
It is.
Okay, so the person who has more children, I guess they're the king. We'll find the person with the most children. They will make them king. Then there we go.
They're more important. The people who have kids are more important than the people who don't.
I'm pretty sure some single mothers have more kids than you do. Should we make them the queen?
I agree.
We should we should have single mother make them the queen. Okay.
No. Again, like literally, our society should be ran. Like literally for families. Like that's like a low variance society where like you don't have things changing all the time.
Can you give me an example of one?
I gave you one. Amish community. It's probably the best example of this. Where like on average they have 5 kids. Why? Because like they know that like when they have kids, their kids are going to grow up in the same way that they grew up, and their kids are going to grow up in the same way they grew up. That way they're fucking comfortable investing in the future.
I think you're missing one point there. And this might be a tool of statecraft, like a symptom of the state itself.
What you got?
But the sexual abuse and like abuse in family. And I think that, in my opinion, that is a tool of statecraft to destroy the family unit. They pit the children against the parents as soon as possible.
Well, I 100% agree with you, right? And I actually think the majority of like abuse inside of like households is actually probably a result of industrialization, right? It's because of the fact that like all of a sudden like you have to like force ideas on the child instead of having it be a natural thing, right? Like back in the day, for instance, when I was 2 or 3 years old, I would go on a job site with my dad. So like therefore like I would know what was expected of me as a man and how to behave from like the very beginning. Right. When you were 2 or 3 and you were living in a farming community or like you were in like a small little village or whatever it is, you would go outside with your parents and like you would go do their daily activities with them. Right. And it'll be an exciting thing. And that would be something that you would come up and that would be a normal thing. But once you get into the point of where like now you're 5, you birth to 5, you're just at the house and your dad goes to work every day. Right. And your mom's, doing whatever she does and she goes to work, whatever, you're going to daycare. All of a sudden, you have to have like these ideas beat into your head because like you don't have any real like normal normative fucking controls on you, right? That are naturally socially viable. You get what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And one more caveat to that point is like my grandparents, they moved out of that lifestyle because of like a 3-year drought. So they just lost all their crops and the stories, well, we didn't have food and the mother wasn't eating, so the 13 children could eat. And even today, everybody moved to the city. People moved, like some people moved to the United States. People like, my point is like they outdid themselves in the other direction. And they just looked at like the farming lifestyle as a curse. And I'm not saying it's a curse like they did, but it does have that caveat to where, it's not freedom. Not always. It does not mean freedom. So,
well, what if, and this is very important, what if we can keep, you know what I'm saying? Like, the stuff we already have, right? You know what I mean? Like medicine and like, you know what I mean? Like hospitals, things of this nature, right? But like for your average citizen who doesn't live inside of a city, right? You don't have to interact with like the extracurricular to destroy society. What if that can be the case?
So what's the standard for maintaining society?
I agree with you. I agree. I'm just saying that they acted because they acted as they were supposed to act. I think like it was like a, there wasn't the internet. There wasn't this easily available technology. Nowadays, you can customize things. There's like a sheet you can hang and it collects water for you. And like you can collect like 3 to 4 liters of water a day from the air. So it's just that stuff was not there. Today is a different case, but I was just trying to explain the scenario. I think a lot of them are traumatized, and that's why they never want to go back to the farming lifestyle. I mean, something like running water from a tap is like the god,
Yeah, listen. I came up, I was potty trained in an outhouse, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, this isn't something super crazy, right? This isn't something that's like, just like fucking way outside of the norm, right? Like it's not a bad thing, right? In the end of the day, like you can have like all like the ability to go to the hospital and all these type of things if you get sick or like, you break a fucking leg or whatever it is, you can still keep all those things, right? So like, these minor things don't fuck you up.
I just know they didn't have that luxury. That's all I was trying to say. That
I feel you. I mean, they did in America remotely. You know what I mean? Like America was nowhere near as bad as everywhere the fuck else. But like, again, like you can stand here and have the ability today to be able to go back. And that's what we should probably be looking for in the end of this is going like, let's go back to that. Right, because that's naturally how human beings are, and cities don't produce kids. You know what I mean, which is a normal thing, right? Because cities, are terrible shit houses that smell really bad, right? You should be living in a place where you have land and you're attached to the land and be part of land and all these type of things and be part of a community and part of a family and part of a structure, part of an ancestry, all this stuff. You should be part of that. That should be yours. Like your culture's handed to you.
Maybe we would still be that if, I'm not even saying the drought was natural I'm 99% sure